Hello, everyone, and welcome back to STEM. Today we are conducting a project. Now, please have pencil and paper ready because for your assignment today is for you to submit a list of the steps I take throughout this project, okay? So let's get started. Our very first image you can see here is an image of the supplies I will be using at first. Now, I have a couple feathers, a cutting board where I lay them out, a small brush, and a spoolie. Um, the spoolie is actually what we girls use to apply mascara. Um, it is safe to use around your eyes, it's soft, and it's effective, and you will see how I use it briefly. Now, I have a square plate with water in it, and then I have a bottle with oil. Now, this is where we get started. Now, I grabbed an orange feather from the bag of feathers, and then I went ahead and submerged it into the water. It's just clean water, no oil, no nothing, just water and a feather. Now, when I was submerging this feather, I noticed that it was kind of hard to get it wet. I actually did have to hold it down underwater for a couple seconds for it to be fully wet. Now, after I took it out of the water, it looked pretty undone. So I went ahead and I grabbed the clean spoolie, and I started to brush it out. So after I completely brushed it out, that is what it looks like. Keep in mind this is just wet. It is not oiled or anything like that. It's just water. Now what I did is that I went ahead and added oil to the water, and that is what that looks like. When I added the oil to the water, of course it did not mix, but since it is a flat plate, it did just kind of blob around. It didn't really like set a layer. I guess I didn't use that much oil either for it to create one whole layer instead of just blobs. But nonetheless, I just went ahead and used that amount of oil, and I grabbed a pink feather this time around. Now, one thing, when I placed the pink feather onto the water with the oil, it actually submerged the feather. It dragged it down. Like I said with the orange feather, when I put it in the water, I had to hold it down, but with the pink feather in the water with oil, the oil kind of just dragged it down. You see that bigger blob in the middle of the plate? I will just kind of place the feather there to see what would happen, and that is what happened. It dragged the feather down and submerged it completely, got it all wet. I actually didn't even have to leave it there for a couple seconds. I just kind of took it out, and that is what it looked like. Now you can see the oil dripping down, and it is not pretty. It is actually even heavier than what the orange feather felt like. So then I laid it out, and you can see that it doesn't look that scrunched up compared to the feather with just water. But I still went ahead and grabbed the clean spoolie and brushed it out, and pretty much all I did was spread it out because it did not do anything about the oil or anything like that. It just stayed there. So I left it a few minutes, and after the few minutes, I kind of started to see the orange feather start to dry. Now I went ahead and tried to see if I could clean the oiled feather with just water, but of course you cannot. I went ahead and grabbed the feather with the oil and put it in just clean water. The feather did go straight down in the water, but it did not clean off at all. I took it out again, and it literally looked exactly the same. No water. It looked wet, but it's covered in oil still. The water did get a few little little blobs of oil, but nothing too drastic. It mostly just stayed stuck to the feather. Now, I put the feather back in the water and I actually now applied Dawn dish soap. Now, fun fact, I did a little bit of research as to what these organizations that help birds that get covered in oil use, and one of their main products or items that they use is dish soap, specifically Dawn dish soap, because it is safe for the animals. Also, they use the spoolies as well, the eyelash brushes that I was talking about. That is something that they use because it is actually safe and effective for the smaller birds, especially. Now, I added the dish soap into the water, and then I grabbed this small flat brush that you see in my hand, and I kind of just dabbed it around, kind of tried to get it throughout the whole feather. You can see the water started to become very opaque. After I felt like I had gotten um, all the parts of the feather that were covered in oil, covered in soap now with water. I went ahead and took it out. Now, when I took it out, it looked completely different. It did not look like at all like what it looked like when I first put it in with the oil. It looked a lot like how the orange feather looked like when I put it into just water. Now you can see it's like all scrunched up, doesn't really have form of a feather. So then I went ahead, I washed the spoolie, and I went ahead and combed it out. As you can see, after I combed it out, it started to look more like the orange feather. After a couple minutes, they ended up looking very similar. Again, they didn't go back to their like first form, which were like really fluffy. I don't know if I just didn't let it dry long enough, but they just kind of looked flat. But if you touched them, they felt normal. I feel like if I would have probably messed around with them a little bit more, probably would have gotten fluffy again. Now, keep in mind, these are artificial feathers. They're not actual bird feathers. This is the closest thing I can get to kind of simulate what it's like or what happens to the bird's feathers when it is covered in oil. And it actually has a stronger effect than I imagined. I mean, I knew it affected them, but to know that it pretty much makes them be more heavy, more dense. It's a little concerning when this does happen to them. That is probably what leads them to have negative effects, probably drowning and all that stuff. Now, again, that was the end of the project. What I learned was that oil does not come off with water, it comes off with soap. And also that where was I going? Also that it is a very easy project. You can do this at home if you have the things to do it. You are not required to do it by no means, but if you want to see what it's like, of course, you feel free to do so. If you do end up doing it, please feel free to send me images of what you came out with. I really appreciate those. Now, again, your assignment, like I said in the beginning of the video, is just to give me a list of the steps that I took throughout this video. No, it's a pretty long video of me just talking and pictures, but this is the project. Now, I hope you all have a very wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to be hearing back from everyone very soon. Goodbye!